So earlier we got to take a look at entering in our first item. Okay, I'm going to tell you from here on out, every time you create a new item, it's rinse and repeat. Okay, so everything that we have in the book, right? It's the same standard things. You're just going to go down to the bottom and you're going to click on new. Now, I'm going to just show you a few more exercises again, because as we go through the rest of the class, right, as I've mentioned before, right, we will be seeing how to use other charges, right? We will take a look at that in chapter 9. We'll also do chapter 2 and 3 primarily, especially when we're dealing with our sales, right? We'll offer discounts, okay? In chapter 8, when we actually set up our inventory items, we're actually going to be looking at an inventory part, and we're also going to be taking a look at how to use the group items, or the group item. Okay, so here it just gives you a brief, pretty much a brief introduction of how to create an item. So once again, we've already created our first service item, okay? And then the next one is going to be a non-inventory part. Now, in this case, like I've mentioned before, okay, we're not going to do the independent contractor because it's pretty straightforward. We're going to take a look at that in chapter 4. But let's see, non-inventory part, okay? Okay, we're not going to do the pass-through, but we're going to go ahead and do the first one, okay? So the first one is that we're going to be creating a custom photo package, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So exactly how we did it before, right? We could go down to the bottom and click New. First thing it's going to ask you is to select the item type. So in this case, we're creating a non-inventory part. Now, once again, the only difficult part that I would say would be determining whether your inventory item or the product that you sell, whether it's deemed as an inventory part or a non-inventory part, is going to be, like I've mentioned before, how often do you sell the item? If you frequently sell it, then select the item, the inventory part. But if it's something that you only sell maybe once in a while, then you should definitely consider that as a non-inventory part. So for example, I've selected a non-inventory part, and the reason why I selected, non-inventory part is because I'm going to sell a custom photo package. Now, question to you guys. How often are you going to have a custom photo package?
Maybe once a month.
Maybe once a month, because the one thing that you have here is it's customizable, okay? Meaning they can add as many picture frames as they want. They can add many photo sessions as they want. This one's going to vary. All right. So then, once again, most cases, if you go to any photo place, you're most likely going to get there just so they can have a photo session with you, right? And if they usually do packages such as, oh, you get a free bundle with a free picture frame, whatever, then you'll create a group item. But in this case, this is a customizable photo package. So anybody can put in, let's say I want 5 hours of this, 5 hours of that, and then 3 hours of that, and I want this service. It's customizable, meaning you're not going to sell this out frequently, because most cases, a lot of the customers are either going to go you for one or the other. So in this case, a custom photo package could be deemed as, one of those things that you don't really sell very often. And like Elena said, is maybe every once a month, right? So again, the description is going to be custom photo package, straightforward. And here, can I go ahead and create a selling price? Now again, if this photo package is deemed to be customizable, I can't put a price tag on there, because I can't say that my package is going to, be a certain price because it's customizable. This person can ask me for 7 hours of a photo session and 3 hours or 3 photo picture frames, right? They can even ask me for 1 hour photo session and 20 picture frames. It's customizable. So in this point, we cannot create some kind of selling price. We just don't know what it is. So in this case, this is also an example of where we can actually start entering in the actual selling price on the sales form. And we'll take a look at that in chapter 2 and 3, because we will also be buying specific like custom parts of the camera, right? And we can charge our customers a specific price. Okay? So once again, you don't need to have a set price here. And we can't determine whether it's going to consist of a service only, a product only. It could be a service and product, so we don't know. So tax may be, it could be adjustable here. Okay. And then last but not least, right, the account that we're going to be using is that we don't know if it's a service or not. But we know that if we're going to sell an entire package, it's going to be considered a sale. So watch again. All I did was type in S, and it would pop up automatically a list of what I want. I can even go to the point where I type in sales, and it will directly tell me. Here I already have sales orders, sales discounts, sales, and sales tax payable. All right, the only one I'm looking for is just my sales, because that's going to be how I generate my income, my revenue. So there you go, sales. And I click OK, and there it populates once again. Okay, pretty straightforward, especially when we're using the use of a form to enter in all the information, right? We just fill out every single box that we can, as much as we can, and that's pretty straightforward, and that's it. Okay. So it's, once again, we're just building the items so that when we do take a look at chapter 4 and chapter 2 and 3, right, dealing with our vendors / our customers, then we're going to go ahead and utilize the items, but we need to build them before we can use them in whether we invoice or we actually create a bill, okay? So this is just making sure that you know exactly what products you sell, what services you provide, and what other things that you can offer. Now, once again, you can do what's called a quick add, and I'm going to show you that tomorrow when we dive into chapter 4. But in this case, for most cases, right, you definitely want to have an idea of what products and services you sell. You want to make sure you set up those accounts, set those selling prices, because that way it helps you process a transaction way quicker than expected, right? By using the autofill, okay? So once again, we just entered in a service in a non-inventory part. Now, once again, we'll take a look at the rest of them another day throughout the rest of the course. But the one that I do want to show or talk to you about is, okay, here we can do an other charge. So I've mentioned before, right? An other charge could be anything that you deem that you charge your customers for. So it could be a late fee. It could be shipping and handling, right? It could be convenience charges, all right, for using a credit card or whatever it is that you need to do. So again, I'm going to skip this section just because, once again, creating a new item for anything is going to be rinse and repeat. You learn how to enter in one of them. It's easy to complete the second, the third, and as many items as you want, because simply you just answer the questions here. All right. So I'm going to skip this one for now, just because we don't need to see another charge, because we will actually see that in chapter 9 and chapter 13. Okay. I mean, chapter 9 and chapter excuse me. Okay, so now sales tax. This is probably the most important one I do want to show you guys, just because there are a few differences between a sales tax item and a sales tax group item. Oops. So with that being said, the difference between the two is primarily how you are going to actually pay the agencies. So as we know that sales tax, right, it's consisting of two key factors. One is going to be the state that you are doing business in. So in this case, I'm doing it in the state of California, right? My company is in the state of California. We'll do an example for the state of Nevada. Okay? So with that being said, therefore, the state's going to charge you some kind of tax because it's sales tax, right? It depends on what state you belong in. But another thing, too, is that you also have to consider which county you also belong into, because the county can pose different types of taxes. So I'll give you an example right now. All right? I used to live in California, as I mentioned before in my introduction. Now, where I live is really funny. I'm in between LA County and Orange County. Now, it's really funny because if I just go over like maybe 2 streets over to the left side, right? I'm sorry, to the right side, to left side, I'm in LA County. If I go further out to the left side, the right side, excuse me, I'm in Orange County. So there are times where I've purchased items in LA County and then I purchase items in Orange County. The difference between my placing that I'm in, right, literally is only 2 streets away. And the taxes on them are really funny because LA County is 1% higher than Orange County. Okay? And like I've mentioned before, right? So I paid I think I paid almost 10% for LA County, where I could pay almost only 9% in Orange County. So once again, it really depends on what county you also belong to, because they can pose a separate tax to be able to function the county that they belong in, right? So once again, that's a perfect example, right? LA County versus Orange County. The difference between where I lived was right in between them, and where I shopped and bought the products determined what my sales tax was going to be. So with that being said, if you have one that separates you from the state that the state charges you, and then you have your local or your county is going to charge you tax as well. So here's the example. So why the difference between a sales tax item versus a sales tax group item? For this instance, right, I may be paying more than one agency to pay off or pay my dues to my sales tax, right? If I have to pay a complete separate agency for just the state and then pay my local agency for my county sales tax, then that is exactly why you need to create a sales tax group item, okay? Now, if you're lucky and you get to pay both state and local into one unit or one agency, then you only need to create one sales tax item, all right? Because the only difference between them is the difference between how many places are you making payments to. If I'm paying more than one payment, I have to use a sales tax group item. If I am paying them all in one area, in one location, then I only need to use just one sales tax one sales tax item, okay? So once again, what does that mean? So let's go ahead and take an example, okay? So here, let's go ahead, instead of using whatever the book does, let's go ahead and apply what we know, right? So in this case, let's go ahead and create a new sales tax item. Now, in order to create the group item, you need to create the sales item first, okay? That's the rule there. You need to create the items because when you do the group item, which I will show you, you're just going to pick the list up and then add them into combine them as a group. So for the first example, let's go ahead and enter in our first example. So we're doing a sales tax item, okay? And I'm going to call this Nevada state tax, okay? Okay, Nevada state tax. My description, pretty straightforward. It's sales tax, okay? And now the question is, how much is Nevada gonna charge me? Okay, so in this case, if you do your research or if you actually just took a look at this, if you were considering doing business or whatever, you're gonna notice that the amount that Nevada charges, okay, is going to be let me see. It is going to be 4.2%, I believe, 4.2% or 4.6. Let me just go ahead and look it up real quick. Okay, customizing. Oh, this is the wrong one. Okay, so it's supposed to be about 4.6%. Okay, 4.6%. All right. And then, of course, like we've mentioned before, right? The one thing that you have to do is when you're doing this, you need to also set up how you are going to be paying this agency. So in this case, you need to set up that in your vendors prior, unless you want to do a quick ad. But in this case, again, you have to look up what actual agency you are going to actually be paying. So in this case, I'm just going to use the example in the book here since I don't know what agency I actually pay for Nevada. So I'm just going to do the State Board of Equalization, okay? And boom, there it is, okay? And that's just my Nevada tax only, and I'm paying to an agency, which is the State Board of Equalization, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, if I go ahead and create a new item, and what this one is going to be, this one's going to be for the Clark County. So I'm going to go ahead and say another sales tax item, and this time it is for the Clark County, and I believe it is 3.78%. Okay, sales tax for is going to be 3.78%. Yes, I was right. So here again, Clark County. Clark County tax. Okay. Once again, description, pretty straightforward. It should be sales tax, and it's 3.78%. Okay. And once again, since I don't know what agency this particularly is, you definitely need to make sure that you research where the agency that you are making a payment to is correct. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So I have Nevada state tax and I have Clark County tax. Okay, those are sales tax items. Okay, now if I go ahead and so what happens here is when I actually do my sales form, right, I can only choose one and one only. You can only tax a customer only one time. So therefore, I've created my individual sales tax items, right? But I can't charge my customer twice for tax. So therefore, I need to create what's called a group item. So here you go, new. And in this case, it's going to be sales tax group. And then my title for this one is going to be NV, right, for Nevada CC tax, okay, for Nevada Clark County tax, okay? And here, this is what I'm talking about. Since I've created my sales tax item, all I have to do is now enter in, right? I just type in Nevada, and there it is, right? If I really wanted to, I can click this drop down menu and it will give me a list of everything that I have tax for. So in this case, Clark County tax. And what do you notice is that it's adding them up. So right now, tax right now is indeed 8.38% or 8.375%, something like that. So this is what it is right now in Clark County. Okay, and there it is. And all I do is now I am going to click OK. And now I have a Nevada Clark County tax, and it is at 8.38%. So therefore, that is what I'm going to be using on my sales form. And when I enter that in behind the scenes is going to make a separation for the 4.6% for the Nevada state tax, and it's going to separate your Clark County tax for the 3.78%. Okay, and that's usually general rule of thumb if you are making two payments to two different agencies, so one for your state and one for your local. Now let's say my state and my local is the same place I make a payment to, then you only need to create one tax item, and that's it. So for example, this Contra Costa, right? It's just one tax item. Okay. Any questions in regards to sales tax? Okay then, let's move on to the next one. How do we print out our items list? Okay, so that's a pretty straightforward one. Okay, we're on my items list right now. Okay. However, I can't print anything on here because I just can't. So in order to be able to locate it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my menu bar and I'm going to go to reports. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and locate lists. And then now I have my items pricing list. Here's my items list. If I click on that, now it's going to give me like a nice little report looking kind of form that kind of gives me a pretty much an overview of every single item that I created with a perfect description, with the item type, and what the cost value is. Okay, so this is definitely perfect, especially when you're trying to go over management to make sure that all the items that you have are there. So most cases, you're more likely to have a pre-existing Excel sheet that gives you a list of all the items that you sell or products and services that you provide. So once again, this is definitely something that you can match up to anything. So if you have that checklist, you can also checklist here. Other things you can also use this for is for submitting it to the the boss, saying, here, this is what my store entails. This is what I charge for my selling process, right? Another way you could also look at it is, did you make sure that you had all the items that you sell, right? So once again, this is definitely a report that you can have for safekeeping, safe records, but also for your sales manager too, whoever's in charge of sales. They could take a look at this and be like, well, this right here, you forgot to put a 10% discount, or you forgot to put 15% discount, etc., right? Other charges, right? Oh, you forgot to include late fees, etc. So once again, once you get here at the very top of this window, you have print. Straightforward. Okay. Now here, the cool thing about this is we'll learn this in chapter 6, but if I go ahead and click this print drop down, right, it gives me two options. I can either print the report like directly out from my QuickBooks, or I can save it as a PDF. So that's the great thing about how flexible QuickBooks is, because not only is it integrated with other things, it's integrated with Excel, and it's also integrated with Adobe. They make it that accessible that you can, instead of wasting paper, right? Let's be paper friendly. or environmentally friendly. Let's instead of printing out all of these things, why don't I just send the report over through email? There you go. You can save it as a PDF. Okay? So that's what's cool about QuickBooks. It's very user friendly, and it's very, it's very technologically advanced in regards to this. And once again, maybe your accountant needs to see where all your sales is coming from. So you might be able to make a copy and send it to your accountant if it's possible, or send it to your tax accountant. Whatever person that you need to send this information to, you can go ahead and print it out. Okay. Now, once again, this is just exploring that option. We will take a look at utilizing the reports menu bar throughout this entire course. So every chapter that we look at, we will look at some form of report that you can create for each single chapter. Okay. So that was that for that one. Okay. Any questions in regards to how to print out my my items list? Okay. No? No. Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Terms. Okay, for my accounting folks, you guys know what this is. For those who are newer or never heard of terms, terms is basically a incentive that a vendor can provide to their customers. Now, what are these discounts entailing? Okay, so when you owe somebody money, okay, the reason why they entice you with this discount is that they basically want you to pay back what you owe sooner than later. Okay, so the expectancy here is that it kind of gives you like an incentive to pay off your bills on time, and by doing so, we grant you a discount on your purchases. Okay, so this can be applied to both a vendor and a customer, right? If we're making purchases from somebody, right, the vendor can offer me an incentive, right? If I'm buying in bulk, right, I buy thousands of dollars worth of inventory items, right? Their incentive is, well, hey, if you can pay off your $1,000 debt to me, I will, within a certain amount of time, I will grant you a discount on your items. Okay? And usually it's better to do it for a vendor, because if you're making purchases of $1,000, 1%, 2%, even any kind of discount will be very, very useful for you. Okay? And you can also do that same thing to your customers, especially if you sell items that can go about $1,000 each, right? If you can say, hey, customer, if you can pay me back within X amount of days, I will throw in a discount for you. Okay, so the major key underlying reason for having terms is it's basically an incentive for you to get your money as soon as possible. Okay, so again, especially when you have the potential, right? We can not make a payment. Your customers can choose not to make a payment either. So that's the one thing that you want to be very, very careful, and it's a part of doing business, is the risk of allowing your customers to owe you money. Because, you may run a credit score, run a background check on them. However, they can choose to not pay you, and they can put you through a lot of stress, right, to having to get that money from them, okay? So that's the risk of doing business, is that if you do have that scenario. So that's why they formulated this kind of incentive, so then it guarantees that their money is given to them, especially if they owe such a large amount. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the terms list anyway. So once again, I go to list. Okay, and then I'm going to go to customers and vendors, and then I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my terms list. So once again, like I've talked about before, right, each term is going to be set a specific type of ordeal. So how we read this is 1% 10 net 30. So what that means is I will give you a 1% discount on your purchases if you pay within 10 days. If not, the whole entire bill is due within 30. Okay? There's also ways where you don't even have the discount. You don't need to offer a discount just because someone else does it, right? You can choose not to even offer a discount, especially for your customers, saying, "Hey, I don't believe you deserve any discount, so you just your bill's due in 15 days. Your bill is due in 30 days." Sometimes you can go on beyond as 60 or 90 days. Okay? So you don't have to offer a discount at all. Now, most expenses, such as if someone did a labor job for you, they're definitely not going to give you a discount. Same thing with rent expense. They're not going to give you a discount at all because you're renting to their place. No. So that's exactly why you can have terms where there is no discount. It's usually when you offer to sell a specific product. That's probably usually where you can take advantage of the discount. So once again, here are examples right here. We got 2% 10 net 30. We have consignment. Okay. We also have net 15, net 10, net 60. Okay. So with that being said, it is straightforward. Looking at this list, it looks identical, if not similar to every list that we've looked at. The chart of accounts, same thing happens at the bottom. You have the little window where you can add a brand new item. And you even have the little inactive terms list, okay? So once again, straightforward. You can click it down bottom at the window and click on new, or you can right click and create a new one. So here, I create a new one and I want to make a new terms account. So in this case, here is how you display the information, right? How do you want the terms to look like? So I believe in your book it says 2%, okay? If you pay within 10 days or 7 days.
7 days.
But if not, you have to pay the whole thing in 30. Good. Okay? So that's how we set it up. That's what I want it to look like. Now, here's how you fill it out. So in this case, it's going to be standard, right? What is the net due? So in this case, when is the whole entire bill due? In this case, it's 30 days.
30 days.
Okay? When is the discount? What is the discount percentage? In this case, it's 2%. Okay? And then lastly is when is your discount period? Meaning how many days are you going to be allowing this person to owe you? And if they pay within those 7 days, right? Whether it's the 5th day, 6th day, 7th day, you're going to say, I'm only going to allow you a grace period of 7 days. If not, you owe the whole thing due. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So there it is. Now notice this. I made a little mess up, right? I kind of made my net in capital. I can go ahead and right click and I can edit that just exactly how you can edit anything else in QuickBooks, right? Okay, right? Let's say I don't need 60. I'm not going to ever let anybody owe me 60 days, or no one in my vendor list can owe me for 60 days. So in this case, I can easily delete it. Same thing, right? Exactly how we took a look at how we enter things, you can easily delete and remove anything that you'd like. Now remember, rule of thumb is you absolutely should not delete anything in QuickBooks, even if you don't ever use it, or if you've never used it. Your best rule of thumb, just to be safe than sorry, is to just inactivate it. All right, that's the one thing that we have to know here. Now, of course, if you're the accountant and you just created an account and you decided that you don't need it anymore, of course, you're just able to just delete it right then and there. Or if you accidentally entered in a bill that you didn't mean to when you're supposed to enter in an invoice, that's something that you can just simply delete. Okay, that's completely fine. Now, of course, that's just the rule of thumb, because if you just delete any transactions and you see holes in when you do your records, which we'll talk about in chapter 6, when you run your reports and you see holes or you see variances, like you wrote a check number 106, 107, but you skipped over 108 because you decided to just delete it, it will show up on your reports. And if you find that, there's only 2 things that you could be suspected for. Fraud is the first one. And then the second one is you probably didn't activate that transaction, or you removed it for some reason. Okay, you voided it. That's usually when they see some kind of suspicion like that, they're automatically going to assume it's fraud. So that's why in this case, you can delete it, but just because it's just terms, it's not going to be super detrimental to your accounting per se. But definitely for when it comes to accounts and your items and things like that, you want to be very careful. Rule of thumb is if you create something, you don't use it, just inactivate it. So in this case, if I don't use Net 30, well, I do use Net 30. That's usually the common billing cycle, right? It's usually you give your customers at least 30 days maximum. Okay. All right, so that's the terms list. Okay. Okay, let's keep scrolling down and see what other things we have here. Once again, price levels. Once again, this is something that you could probably read on your own. It is definitely something that, as a small company, you would rarely encounter this, because I've mentioned it before, right? What a price level is basically it kind of defines your specific customers and what kind of groups they belong into, right? If they're, like, for example, is residential versus commercial, right? If you're dealing with someone who's just a local resident, you would most likely charge them a very low price. Where if you're going out seeking out a commercial customer, so anyone that's a large company, corporation, whatever it is, you definitely would actually make the price a lot higher, because, again, the corporations, those kind of companies, they have the big bucks and they can pay for it. So that's all that is. So I'm going to have you guys read that on your own. And if you guys end up doing the exercise, go ahead and feel free to. Like I said, it's not, I don't think, as a small business standpoint, you would rarely ever use that. So, but it's definitely good to know what it is. Okay? All right. All right, so any questions in regards to lists? Okay. No? All right, last thing that I'm going to show you. All right, there's actually 2 more things. Okay, so let's talk about custom fields. Okay? Custom fields in QuickBooks is actually, it can be useful for you, especially when you're dealing with people, okay? Now, this is definitely something that we're going to take a look in Chapter 4 when we enter in our first vendor. But I'm going to go ahead and teach it to you today, so then when we go over in Chapter 4, we already know what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and take an example here. So I'm going to go use a vendor, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and edit a supply. Okay. Because you can only locate the custom fields under additional information. Okay. So what custom fields does is it pretty much allows you to create custom boxes, or in this case, custom sections that you can fill in yourself. with any pertinent information that is relevant to either a customer or an item. Okay, so here I'm here in my other my additional info, and what you're going to notice is that you have a little section called custom fields. Now, in this case, it tells me that I have county available. If I want to go beyond that, I'm going to go ahead and click define fields. Now, notice this. Now, you can collect any piece of information that you want to know about anything and anything, okay? About anything about a person. So here, you can create custom fields for your customers, your vendors, and your employees. Now, besides the basic information like what's your name, what's your birth date, there are other things that you can learn about a particular person, such as for your vendors, right? You can learn when did their company establish. So the great thing about collecting these extra information is that it is a great conversation starter. Okay? Because as you build a relationship with a customer, vendor, or your employee, the strongest way is to learn something about them that's unique. So especially when it comes to your vendors, right? If you're learning that their company established at a specific date, and let's say you get invited into one of their company parties, you can you can buy a gift. It's a great conversation starter, right? If you have a great relationship with your customers, right? Usually you talk with them and you learn like, oh, I have a pet named this, right? I have a family, I have a wife. All right? So all of those things the custom fields are meant to build your relationship a lot stronger with these people, okay? Especially, it's going to be very useful for your employees, because what employees tend to really like is, does their boss actually care about them? Does the boss actually know any information in them? So that's actually why, the custom fields is important, because it helps you build information that otherwise you wouldn't be able to find in, the basic, what's your name, age, and gender, right? This is specific, customizable information that you can learn about any of these people. So for example, here, right, I've opened up my custom fields. I have spouse's name. That will definitely work for your employee, right? Especially, you definitely want to know what's their given circumstance. Why did they apply for your job? What, especially when they're filing taxes, right? Are they married, right? And if they are married, right? If you invite your employee to your company party, you want to be able to talk with them and build a relationship with your employees, because then you build trust. All right, and they'll more likely to want to be inclined to work harder for you. Okay, so definitely a spouse's name is definitely useful for an employee. Other things is that you can use is department. So if you have your employees, right, you can create departments to say that, oh, you belong into the sales department, you belong into the HR department, you belong into the marketing department, XYZ. Okay. Title. Okay, so all of these were pretty much geared towards your employees. Now, of course, if I'm going to a company party, right? Let's say for one of my huge companies that provide a lot of services and stuff for me, like, or maybe my tax accountant decides to say, hey, you're a great customer of ours. Why don't you come and be invited to our company party? So a good one that you could say is a business establishment date, okay? So that's definitely something, right? Because another thing that you can build a relationship is that, let's say, the company just established themselves 2021. You can give them a nice gift, send them a gift saying, congratulations on having your grand opening for your company, etc., etc. Okay. establishment date. So this one allows you to check mark on what applies for your people. Does a business establishment date apply to a customer? No. It definitely will apply for a vendor. Will it apply to your company? I mean, to your employees? Absolutely not. They better not be establishing a business under you. Other things could be like a pet name, right? Not like a name that you call them, but a pet name. Do they have animals? So that could apply for all of them, right? Your customers, one of your customers can talk all about their dog that they have, right? Oh, yes, I have a great dog. He's a nice Westie Terrier Golden Retriever, whatever you want to call him, right? You might be interested in that fact, especially for your employees, right? They might have a picture of their dog on the desk. It's a great relationship builder, okay? And especially for your vendors, right? You can talk about sports, okay? That can apply for all three categories. Now, here's the one thing that I'm going to tell you here. You can only build 7 custom fields per person. So every customer can only have 7 fields. Every vendor can only have 7 fields. Every employee can only have 7 fields. But you can have a grand total of 15 custom fields. Now let's do the math. 15 times 3 is 45. So this is what I mean by this. You can only build a total of 15 custom fields. And as you see it just like this, out of that one custom field, you can apply it to your customer, vendor, and or employee. So here, you want to be very careful on the specific custom fields that you are looking for, because a custom field can be used for both a customer and a vendor, but not an employee. In this case, when I put my business establishment date, it only applied to my vendor. So you want to be very careful on how many custom fields that you build, because you don't want to build a specific 7 specific ones for just a specific person. Like for just my customers, if I built 7 of them, then I'm only left with 8 left to divide between my vendors and my employees. Okay, so you want to create a custom field that can be applicable to more than one party. Okay, so that's custom field right there. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then I'm going to just, okay. So there you go. Now it displays because I selected in my list that for my vendor, I want to know these 4 details. Okay. So once again, we'll talk more into this when we dive into chapter 4, which is tomorrow. We're going to actually be looking at our first vendor that we're going to be entering into the QuickBooks. Okay. So any questions about custom fields? Right? I've also mentioned, yes, when we talked about the chart of accounts, okay, that when it comes to items, okay, so for example, this, right, I can only have a maximum of 5 customizable items. So in this case, let's take a look at my assets. I have a bank, my accounts receivable account, other current assets, fixed assets, and other assets. That's exactly 5. So you can't go beyond 5 for every account that is there created. Same thing with sub accounts, right? You can only here your categories are your sub accounts, so you can only have 5 per account. Okay. Now underneath that, you can have another 5, of course, underneath that. But in this case, this is an example of when you make custom fields, you can only create it for items only up to 5. Okay. Now, of course, the book primarily geared you towards using custom fields for your people. They don't really show you how to do it for items. So, but that's just the rule of thumb there. Okay, just to have in your back of your mind. You can create a total of 15 custom fields, okay? You can only use 7 of them for each person, but for items, you can only have 5. Okay? Any questions for custom fields? All right? You're going to also see that right here. It will tell you right here. You can only create so much. Okay? Any questions? Okay? Last but not least is going to be taking a look at modifying sales forms. So once again, we talked about how we can customize our sales forms by going to, if you go to lists and you go to templates, these are the only things that you can actually modify, okay? The only one that you cannot do is a check, because a check is obviously very important, and if you miss a box in the check, it's not going to look pretty. The only customization you can do a check is through the banking system. So you have to, if you want like a background or you want to attach your company logo on it, that's unfortunately going to have to only come through from the bank itself, because there's a few things that you need to know about the check. It's not a standard piece of paper that you can print out. It's on an actual legitimate legal documentation that has some kind of, if you ever held it up to a light or something, you're going to see that it has this like microfiber, what do you call it? It's like got this like holographic imprint on them. That's called a legal financial note or whatever it's called. It's that special paper that allows you to make it a legitimate copy of money, essentially, right? It's a legal, it has to be on that specific piece of paper, okay? And unfortunately, that can only come from the bank, from Intuit, because they ordered the checks for you, or you can get that card stock specifically at the bank. But for most cases, you cannot absolutely modify a check, because it has important key factors, such as the person that you pay, the date that you're making the payment on, and also how much you're going to make the payment for. And most importantly, you need to have the signature. Okay? Everything comes standard, like the business address and as well as the business bank account number. All of those are standard. But for most cases, that's the only thing that you cannot ever modify. Okay? Here you can modify invoices, sales orders, sales receipts, credit memos, okay, purchase orders, which we just talked about, estimates, sales orders, we just talked about. Okay, so once again, these are pertinent because the one thing that you want to do, especially when it comes to statements, right? You want to make it look like it came from your company. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a look. So let's go ahead and take a look at the standard Intuit.
There is beef and broccoli in there. What's in rice and beans? And the square box.
Okay, so Elena, your microphone's on. No, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So here, we'll take a look at this one. So here, let's look at a service invoice. If I double click on it, it's going to automatically pop up this, and it gives me a little preview right here on the window, right? It gives me a preview of what it should look like. Now, if you are an any company and you receive this invoice, can anybody notice anything unique about your company? No, it looks like someone just did this on Excel and just sent it to me. Okay? There's no uniqueness, nothing pops out. You don't have anything that makes it significant that your company is any other regular company. It looks like every regular company, right? Or a company that just doesn't care. Now, the one thing that you want to do is, like, if you have a company logo, company colors, those are what is going to make the invoices unique, right? Make the invoice customizable and personable to your company. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. What we're going to do is we're going to take an example on how to create an invoice that's personal or that reflects the business company. So here I'm going to go ahead and click on that Intuit service invoice, and I'm going to go ahead and either go down to the bottom and I'm going to make a duplicate. Okay, so duplicate. Okay. And of course, once again, this is a invoice, okay? And we're gonna go ahead and click OK. Now, the reason why they suggest you to create a duplicate of it and then start from there is because if you look at the invoice, right? If you're building this from scratch, you may forget to include a few things. So if let's take a look at that. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on my copy of the Intuit service invoice, right? Here, it gives me my ship to date, my billing date, my invoice, my company name, the items that I am shipping or invoicing, okay? It also gives me totals at the bottom. So all of this information, right? If I were to build this from scratch, I can guarantee you will probably be missing a few things, okay? So that's why they suggest you or recommend you that Intuit already provides you specific templates, right? All it asks you to do is just make a copy of it so you don't leave any information out, okay? So how can you customize this to your liking? Well, let's look at the options, okay? First off, first thing they want to tell you is you're going to click on that manage template. So I need to make it so then it looks that I can find that as this is my invoice. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and write Academy photo for short. Service invoice. Okay. So then the next time I locate this, I know exactly where it is. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and click. Oh, I need to pull my window up. And I'm going to go click OK. I'm going to click OK once again. So there you go. Now I just changed the name of this exact template right here. That's the first thing that it tells you to do is you should rename your invoice so you know where to locate it afterwards. So if I look behind, it says right here, Academy Photography Service Invoice is the first thing I have there. Okay. So what other things can I customize this with? I can create or add my company logo. So if I click use, okay, now it's going to ask you to locate your image. So we do actually have it in the student portable files. If you go to your student portable files, okay, it's going to be your logo, okay. And once I do that and I click OK, now let's take a look at our invoice. It just added my Academy Photography logo. That's making my invoice look a little more unique. Okay? Other things that you can change, such as your title, right, or your company name. I can change the font. Okay? Let's say I want to make it a specific font. Let's say my company font is I'm just gonna go ahead and just pick a random one. Let's do this one. Okay. And then of course I can make it bold. I can make the size even bigger. So let's say I want this to be size 18, right? And let's say I can even change the color if I wanted to. I can change it to this nice maroon color. And I can click OK. And there it displays right here. It makes my invoice look more unique. Okay. You can even change the color scheme of your entire invoice. So for the boxes right here, they're all in black. I can change that if I wanted to. Right? Other things that you can do too is, do you want to display your company name? Obviously, it's an invoice. You definitely want to have your displaying your information. I'm going to enter in my phone number. Okay. There, my phone number's there. Do I want to put my company address? That should definitely be there, because if you're sending an invoice, how are they going to send you a check back? All right, and notice this, it's entering all this information down below. Okay. Other things that I want to do is when I want to print the status date, no. Any past due figures, no. Fax number, no. Web address, email address, that would definitely be very useful. Okay, so you could see it's building stuff. And maybe I do want my web address. Maybe they want to check out my website. So notice that it's adding things to my invoice. Okay, and once again, you can change the whole color scheme if you like. But yes, that is pretty much how you can customize a sales form. Okay, pretty straightforward, pretty easy, and you can even preview it if you like. So print preview, right? I can take a little bigger glance at my work. Okay, so my invoice is there. Okay, if I scroll down, right, the things that I entered in here was my phone number, my email address, as well as my website, and the totals in big. So there's many ways you can create or you can customize your sales form. Okay.
In some invoices, like construction companies, they do have license numbers. I don't see it in here. Where do
You,
you find that?
you can add that yourself. So once again, this is
Okay.
based off of, like, so a sample, right? For medical billing and coding, you need to have the
Yeah.
billing number. You need to have their date and their account number. You have to have all those information, so you can actually add that in here. So if you come over here under this list right here, you can add anything in there. So you can build let me go ahead and save this real quick, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. So here, if you go to templates, right, and you create one from scratch, so you create a new one, right? Let's say I'm going to create an invoice and click OK. Here, that's what an invoice, they just give you the basic generic stuff in here. You can add as many columns as you like, because again, an invoice can hold a lot more information, right? And you'd be able to do that by toggling up here. You can add anything in here, or you can actually add, like, you can even update your information to be able to put it in there. But so here, additional customization. So once you do that, you can add your columns. You can add extra columns if you need it to do so. So that's all this right here. So in your book, it tells you how to do that. So if you need to add your billing information or your account numbers, XYZ, whatever information, you can start adding more information on your sales form. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel because I already created one, and click cancel. All right. So that's the last thing that I wanted to show you in chapter 7 was to customize your sales form or a form. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay. So once again, now let's go ahead and go over the review questions. Okay. So question number 1, excuse me. Okay, you can create a custom field for D, your customers and your vendors. Templates, no, you absolutely cannot create a custom field for a template. Okay, the rule is people or items. Right. Number 2, okay, the 2 types of preferences are A, user and company preferences. Yes. Okay. Good. User and accountant, obviously there is no accountant. Favorites and general preferences, no, right? We got to take a look at that. It's the very first thing that you read on the very beginning of the chapter is that there are two preferences, user and company. Number 3, okay? If you don't see the favorites menu on your menu bar, you can turn it on by
B.
B, customize the icon bar window. We're talking about the favorites menu. So B is probably not going to be the right answer. Can A be a possible answer? You're customizing your templates window. Is that anything have to do with the favorites menu? No. So A and B are automatically eliminated. What about the view menu? Is that a possibility? Let's check it out.
Yeah. Yes.
View, right? You got your favorites menu. So once again, if I uncheck mark it, my favorites menu disappears. If I click on it once again, favorites menu, it appears. So in this case, the answer is C. There is no Windows menu. Okay? So the answer is C. All right, number 4. Okay, which of the following is not an available template type in QuickBooks?
C.
C, right? I even talked to you about this. You cannot ever modify your check, okay? You can modify a credit memo, right? If a vendor is or a customer decides to return something to them, you can issue them a credit memo. Statements, right? You could definitely personalize the statements because a statement pretty much carries all the transactions that a customer has done. And then same thing with a sales receipt, right? If you're invoicing somebody or they made a purchase of something, you definitely want to make a unique sales receipt, right? Last but not least, number 5, if you pay sales tax to more than one agency, you should use what?
Sales tax.
B.
Tax group.
Sales tax group. That is correct, right? I showed you that today in class. So, all right. So that now we are done with chapter 7. Any other questions, comments, and concerns? Okay, anything that you want to ask? Okay. If not, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you really quickly because yesterday we also ran out of time. So I'm going to go ahead and briefly show you real quick what happens when I create a company file using the Express Start. Okay. So once again, here I am at the home page, and if I go ahead and click on Create a Company, and I go ahead and click on that Express Start button, first thing it's going to ask you is enter in your email address. Again, you can bypass this, right? If you go down to the bottom, you can skip it. Okay. And then now you got to go ahead and create your information. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a fictitious business real quick called Coffee Cafe. Okay. What kind of industry is it? It's going to be in the restaurant industry. Come on, there you go, restaurant industry. What kind of business type is it? It is a sole proprietor. Okay. Do I have an employee identification number? In this case, I'll just make it up. 1 1 1 2 3 4 5 6 wait 2 4 6 7. Okay. My address. Okay. I'm gonna put in 2625 South Rainbow Boulevard. Okay. And city, of course, that's Las Vegas. And state will be Nevada. Okay. And zip code 89146. Country, phone, I could pay 702-853-7482. Okay. Etc., right? I filled this out. And then now I'm going to go ahead and create my company file. Right? Now, once my green bar gets to 100%, okay, you know what the next thing is going to be? There you go. That's it. So it says you're all set. Okay. That means, what does that mean?
You got your home page already set up.
No, you don't. You have to manually do everything. Yes. Okay. So once again, that's what the Express Start does. It just, all you need to do is you're just creating your company file. And this is exactly why this is meant for more avid users of QuickBooks, because they know the ins and outs. They know how to build, to customize, to do everything it is for QuickBooks. And that's why they recommend for beginner users to use the detailed start or the easy step interview. Okay? And in this case, we have nothing. Yeah. We have nothing in here. No sales tax. The only thing that you have, basic things that would be like, okay, yeah, I have an invoice and I have a bill. But there's nothing else in here. You don't even have employees. You have nothing built. So that's exactly why I taught you today. How do you customize your QuickBooks? How do you do your preferences? And that's where you're going to go ahead and go to your edit preferences. You're going to go to company for every single section in here, because that's essentially answering all the questions that you answered in the Easy Step interview, right? Again, sales tax, right? Company, do you charge sales tax? Yes, I do, right? Inventory, do I sell an item? Do I have inventory? Right? Come on, company. No, I want inventory. Okay, it's cause I have to set up the whole entire thing. Like I have to finish filling everything out. So in this case, I'll just keep it now. So once again, you're going to have to go through every single step in here, going through every single category that you can see here and topic, because that's ultimately how you customize your entire books, your entire company. Right now, all you did was fill in the basic information was you are a restaurant, you're a sole proprietor, you didn't even fill out your company. The only thing you filled out was your company name. You had your employee identification number for taxes, and that's it. Everything else you have to set up manually by going through the edit preferences and using the company preferences. Okay, so once again, this is meant for more avid users because they know exactly how to use QuickBooks and they know exactly what to do. They know exactly what the company needs, so they can go ahead and go to the edit preferences and manually go through everything. Where versus someone who doesn't know too much about opening their own company and what kind of information they need, you definitely want to use the Easy Step interview because it asks you the basic questions to build your profile. Do you sell an item? Yes. What do you sell? I sell a product and service. Okay? Do you have inventory? Yes. Do you keep track of time? Yes. Do you have employees? Yes. Okay, do you charge sales tax? Yes. So all of those questions, right, you would have to manually enter everything in. And once again, this could be beneficial for your QuickBooks users, depending on who's using it, right? If it's an avid user, they could quickly know exactly what they need to put in here. But like I said, again, it could be whoever's using the QuickBooks when they're creating their company file. Would it be easier to just go through the easy step interview? As you guys remember, it took up the entire class, right? It took about the first hour, an hour and a half of class to just set up the company file. Now, as a person who's already know the ins and outs of the QuickBooks, they can easily set it up in 10 minutes. But they don't have to go through the interview. They can just do the express start and just enter it in, and then just go through the edit preferences and just tackle each topic. Okay, so that's what I just wanted to show you. Okay, the difference between the express start versus the detailed start. The detailed start allows you to build your profile as you answer the questions, where express start, you're only building the profile. Everything else, preferences, things that you need to set up, inventory, sales, whatever, employees, you have to do that all manually. Okay? So any questions in between that, or the difference between the two? Okay?